Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Doc Rodden, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts Jeff Mohr, Gille Klabin, Dave Dreher, and I will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. With me this week is my co-host, Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, bud?
Well, I got to tell you, it's been kind of a weird day. Up is down, fast is slow. What's in here is out there. What's out there is in here now. Welcome to Life in the Sticks.
Yeah. They call it Maui Wowie. Man. I'm sorry, that's a different movie. That's a different movie. Same guy, different movie. All right, yeah.
I'm good. It's cold, but I'm good.
We've got some great trippy movies tonight. But really what's cool, Jeff, is we've been doing this show for 100 straight weeks. 100! This is episode 100. Is that awesome?
It is.
Yes.
It's very cool. And what's even cooler, we have Vanessa back. Sort of like
Woo!
old home.
Yes. Yeah, to celebrate our special
Not
episode.
that Vanessa makes me think of old homes, but you know,
That's okay.
it's good to have her back in the house.
There's somewhere I can go with that, but I probably shouldn't. All right. Also joining us this week is Gille Klabin, the living dead girl. Crystal, how you doing?
I'm good. Well, I guess we kind of already discussed how everyone else is, but I'm great. I'm just living it up, with my drugs here. Oh God, see, that was so bad. I wasn't even funny. I didn't even come up with anything witty at all.
What are you dreaming about? Never mind.
Electric sheep.
Electric sheep.
There we go.
Or alpaca, right?
Alpaca.
Electric
alpacas, yes.
Yeah, we are doing two movies tonight. Both of them have a very psychedelic, trippy kind of nature. So it's an interesting theme for our 100th episode. And it's a special one. Unfortunately, Dave cannot make it, but we have a special guest, podcast rockstar and international cosplay queen, Vanessa Thompson. Welcome back.
I'm here.
Yes, you
it's
were
good to be back.
Yeah, you were with us in the initial run, and and then you're over at H&R, but you were able to come back for this episode and the previous one. If you haven't caught the Dracula episode, recommend doing that. That was a fun episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew we were doing Color Out of Space that you had to be involved.
Yeah, there was no way I was going to miss this one. To get the screener alone to watch it.
Yes.
And I have to say, I'm going to say this real quick. It's a shame we didn't get to see it on the big screen, at least yet, because I will be.
Yeah, it could show up at the Alamo still, so we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But if it does,
well, I think they're going to show it at the Carolina Theater. I think Jim Carl's putting it on.
Okay, well, that'll work.
I think they're actually showing it here.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
Iowa.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. All right, well, we have two films. We have Color Out of Space, if you haven't figured that out. And we also have The Wave, featuring Justin Long. Both of them, yeah. Yeah, there's going to be a theme here, right, Jeff?
Is there?
There's a theme.
It's freaky.
Theme. It's freaky.
Colors. Look at the colors. No?
Right. Well,
it's psychedelic. It's
psychedelic.
They're both tripping.
you keep going. You'll win one here eventually. All right, the odds are for you. All right, well, we'll get to our reviews here in a second. But first, Gruesome Magazine is brought to you by ExpressVPN. A VPN is a virtual private network, a secure tunnel between your device and the internet. VPNs are used to protect your online traffic from snooping, interference, censorship, and alpacas. You'll know what we're talking about here shortly. All right, ExpressVPN provides rock-solid privacy at blazing speed. No compromises. They have servers everywhere, 160 locations across 94 countries to keep your real location hidden from prying eyes. They have no restrictions. Watch what you want. Say goodbye to block services and websites. Stay anonymous and also stay secure. They encrypt everything for my money. That's the most important bit. But they also have 24/7 support, which if you need some help, they're there. Jeff, you found that they were very helpful, right?
They are. Yes, they are. Very, very quick to respond, and it is 24/7.
And their service is doing you proud, right?
Yes, it is. It accelerates. It does.
That's really amazing that it does. I'm considering. Well, I have a VPN from work, but I think I might end up with 2. Is that overkill? I don't know. Well, we'll see. If you want to try ExpressVPN, you can do so at tryexpressvpn.com/gruesome magazine and give it a shot. And if you do so, I believe they still have it running that you get 3 months free when you do a year in advance. So that's kind of awesome. All right, the first movie we have to review is The Wave. This is from Gille Klabin and writer Carl W. Lucas. The cast includes Justin Long, Tommy Flanagan, Katia Winter, Donald Faison, Sheila Vann, and Bill Sage. And the synopsis goes something like this. Frank, an optimistic insurance lawyer, thinks he's in for the time of his life when he goes out on town to celebrate an upcoming promotion with his coworker Jeff. But their night takes a turn for the bizarre when Frank is dosed with a hallucinogen that completely alters the perception of the world, taking him on a psychedelic quest through board meetings, nightclubs, shootouts, and alternate dimensions. As Frank ping-pongs between reality and fantasy, he finds himself on a mission to find a missing girl, himself, and his wallet. All right, let's find out what we thought of The Wave, coming on VOD January 17th from Epic Pictures. Let's start off with Crystal Cleveland. What was your first impression of The Wave?
So I knew nothing really about this movie, and it's a trip. I think
Literally.
the cinematography, yeah, literally. I think it was shot well, and I think the acting was good. I think the story remarkably flows well and is easy to understand, considering how there's, I don't want to give too much away, but time displacement things happening here. I think that Justin Long is actually really funny. I like the way the whole thing came together toward the end. I think the characters were really fleshed out. I think there was some good interactions between them. There was one character that I didn't really understand at one point where she came from and how it happened, but I let that go because, like I said, it's kind of a trip. So yeah, I liked it. I don't know that I would say that I loved this movie, but I thought it was fun and well made and worth a watch for sure.
Well made and worth a watch. Yeah, it's not a horror film. It's more a psychedelic sci-fi adventure comedy, which is in our wheelhouse. So that's what we do. And I know Jeff loves, WTF films, and I think this one certainly fits. So Jeff, what is your first impression of The Wave?
I like this. It's got, I think, an excellent look and feel for what are, in terms of directing, a relatively inexperienced director. The story's not easy to get across to the viewer. I think it's fairly complicated, doesn't follow a linear timeline at all, but they did a good job. The plot's pretty chaotic, to say the least, but they do manage to get it across. So I felt like I had a grasp of what's going on. I want to go along with that. I just wanted to throw some stuff out there about the cast and crew. So yeah, it's his first feature, Gille Klabin, but he's also worked as a visual effects artist. The writer, Carl W. Lucas, it's his second feature screenplay, but he was also producer on Don't Blink and Fender Bender. Film editing, Lana Wolverton did the same job on Fender Bender and Don't Blink, and was assistant editor on Antlers. Visual effects by Sebastian Brown, which are important to this film, who also did The Meg in 1922. So lots of experience in the crew and in the cast. I've loved Tommy Flanagan ever since he was Chibs on Sons of Anarchy. I try to pay attention to him. And Katia Winter was in one of my favorite movies of the decade, Banshee Chapter.
Ooh, that's right.
And Sheila Van, God, I wish Dave was here so I could poke him a little bit with this. She was the lead in A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, and had parts in a couple of anthologies, Holidays and XX. And she's slated to be in the new Snowpiercer TV series that TNT is doing. That's being produced by Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah, they just announced today that's coming out in May.
Oh, in May already. Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a good cast and a good crew. And this is as complicated as this is and as wild as the visuals are. It's really well done, both in acting and the look.
Very good. Very good. I can't wait to get into the details because the devil is in the details. Vanessa, what was your first impression of The Wave?
I really enjoyed this. I'm glad that Jeff brought up some of the people that worked on it that weren't actors, because it's visually stunning. They did something so beautiful and seamless that really helps convey the message they're trying to get across. And it reminded me so much of What Dreams May Come. Did you ever see that Robin Williams movie?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful and dreamy and kind of trippy, and it shows an understanding for psychedelics beyond just party drugs or whatever like that. It shows something in how it deals with consciousness, and I was very impressed with Justin Long's performance. I really think this is one of the best performances I've seen him give. You really understand his character. You really feel it. You feel the desperation that he has, and how he's just dying to get out of this trap that he's put himself in life. And that really spoke to me. Surprisingly enough, that his role in this movie spoke to me on that kind of level, and it really shows the quality of people they've had working on this, because it's so well put together. And it's like you said, Jeff, had it not been the level of people working on it, I don't think it would have worked. It would have just been a complete jumble of ideas and flashes and drugs and all this, instead of something that actually came together to make a pretty cool story.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I had a great time with this. There's a few moments that it lagged a bit, but for the most part, every time, it did the shift, it got more and more exciting. And as he learned what that shift meant, it really kicked into high gear. I agree with Jeff. Tommy Flanagan is, when he's on screen, he's captivating. He plays that character so well, this mysterious drug dealer who may or may not actually be there. I don't know. There's a little bit of a stretch there that I was wondering what was actually going on, because he's slightly in a different different zone, man. It's not like Richie, the real drug dealer, right? Who's a little bit more harsh and hard. But the problems that they get into, and then how everything is tied together, and how how the plot actually wraps up and he gets out of like some troubles was really fun and amazing. It's humorous, but at the same time, like Donald Faison, who I think is a comedian, from what's the show he was on? Scrubs, right? He is funny in this a lot, but there's a couple times when he's straight up serious that I thought was really, when he was just like, I don't understand what's happening. You're Frank. You've got to tell me. You got to tell me how did you do that? How did you know that? You got to, he's straight up.
Where did you get that clock?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's layered. I'm a little more hesitant than you guys, but only slightly so. So this will be exciting to get into the details. Do we want to throw a spoiler alert? Because it's going to be real hard to talk about this without getting into spoilery territory. Should
That's
we do
up
it?
to you.
All right. Yeah, I think we have to. Yeah, I'm going to run with that. All right. If you haven't seen The Wave, we're going to spoil it. So skip ahead to the next review. Or to the end of this when we do our scores and whatnot. But when I count down, we're going into spoilers. 3, 2, and 1. Crystal. All right. There's time travel. What did you think of, you mentioned the clock, right? Did you throw the clock into it? What did you think of how that came into play once he learned what was happening?
Well, okay. So wait, okay. Technically I mentioned the time displacement, but I don't mind. I don't talk about the clock. Okay. So the whole reality of this is quite confusing. And I don't know, I couldn't quite understand whether it was him beating his fist. That's what caused the time displacement? Is that what that was?
Well, sometimes somebody else did it. Like
I
Jeff
thought it was
did it one time.
clock.
You thought it was what?
Breaking a clock.
Is that what it was? Every time they were breaking
because he smashes his phone down.
Oh my God, am I that stupid? I totally.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I got it wrong.
Well, Jeff does hit the radio with the clock on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the very first one is when the maintenance man drops the clock off the wall.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
that's right.
Okay, so see, that's something I kind of missed. I was confused as to how the whole thing happened. Now, I think you kind of have to basically disregard any sort of reality to enjoy this movie, like at all, because none of it really makes sense until it comes together at the end. And it really still doesn't make any sense. It just is what it is. But I loved when he actually had the homeless person bring the money and he brought the clock back with him, because then that made it feel like some sort of reality to it. And it like happened and the people were tripping out, because you're like, what is happening? Is he just on some drug-induced trip? Is this what happens before you, since we did spoilers, is this what happens before you die? I mean, I don't know. I really liked the whole like harmony, and obviously the ending was great because wow, his boss was such a dick. So you're thrilled that he like got what was coming to him. Although I have to tell you, I did not see that coming at all. Right? Like I can kind of go and kind of tell where a movie is going. This one, no, not at all.
I really liked when he was in like the mid zone, when he's on the, in the field laying next to, is it Teresa or Natalie? Which one's the one he's laying next to? Teresa. And yeah, because there's a Teresa, not Teresa weirdness that we have to discuss at some point. But I loved the conversations they were having that were vague, but not. But anyway, Jeff, what about you? You're the WTF expert here. What did you think of all the time shifting, time displacement, bringing the clock through, anything?
I don't claim to be an expert on anything, but I just like stuff like that makes you think and that you don't know what's going to happen, and that kind of jumps out and literally you're watching the movie and you're going, what the? And this one had it. I also love time travel stuff because it adds, you got to stop and think about how things affect things that have already happened, all that stuff. So I love time travel built into plots. And this actually has an added feature. It's not just time travel. It's also displacement. What did you call it, Crystal? Time displacement?
Time displacement. Yeah.
It's also physical displacement, because he's not only jumping in time, but to different places. And it's not always obvious what time it is when he figures out where he's at. But when it first starts off, it's like, what the hell is going on? Why, you kind of get an idea that time is screwed up, but you sort of feel like, well, is this just some super powerful LSD type drug that he just loses hours? Or at first anyway, that's where you go, but then pretty soon that goes out the window. So I don't know. I thought it was great. I had great fun with it, and I thought that once we get this idea of hitting or breaking the clock, or what I thought was like stopping time, that would be a jump, then it started to kind of make sense. And he kind of figured it out at about the same time. So he starts having a little bit more control over his destiny. And I think in the end, it's really kind of a morality play, right?
It ends up being that. And, he does take control of his destiny. He makes a choice. Mm-hmm. And I find that interesting as well.
So I loved Sheila Vann as the Teresa that we knew most of the time. I thought she was great. And I also loved Bill Sage. He's another guy with some interesting credits as the boss. He's good. And I didn't know the very final thing. I thought something was going to happen because one of the people that he runs across says something to him. Maybe it's the cop. Says something to him about karma.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Jeff tells him, oh, they're just going to get off, or whatever.
Karma has a way of, or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The universe has a way of evening out or something.
Yep.
Actually, that was one of the funniest because you find out what he actually did with the drugs.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't know earlier.
No, he didn't.
That's what I liked. It's like, based on his timeline, he didn't know, but he figured it out. He went back and yeah. So that's all kind of cool.
Well, they just took off sliding across the field in that one dimension.
They did. I had a little trouble with the boardroom scene. That's one of the things that I thought went a little too far. And, based on, the rest of it was more time trippy, but that was very much in the LSD trippy thing, where their faces got funny and they were doing weird different things.
I loved that.
Oh, did you? Tell me more. Tell me more.
I thought that, everybody, as he's going through this trip and his mind is being expanded to the point where he is able to, this is the way I interpreted it. He took this drug, and I think our Teresa is the Harmony they're constantly speaking of. She wants Harmony wants to be back in balance, and she's kind of guiding him through that even before he takes this drug. And I feel like the drug, what it does, takes him to a level of being able to manipulate his consciousness. So outside, before he knows what he's doing, he's kind of got to go through this whole bad trip, right? He's got to go through the worst of it before he can get to a point where he can understand and manipulate it. And that scene in the boardroom, I felt like just so really drove home what he was doing. He was destroying these people's lives who had already had their lives destroyed, all because he wanted to save a corporation money. He was doing his job, right? And just because it's your job doesn't mean it's right. And and then what he does at the end, where he gives the wife the money in his will is just so poetically beautiful. And I don't know, I just maybe it's because I like demony, crazy creatures like that, and I loved seeing them on the table jumping around and him freaking out about it. But I just felt like that was a very poignant scene because that's the worst, right? That's the worst thing that he sees, that he experiences. That's the crescendo moment before he can start coming down into understanding what's actually happening.
Not his choice to deal with Richie to try to figure it all out.
That was wild.
No. I like that scene a lot too, Doc. But I liked it even before that. I liked when he goes in there and he sees I already kind of mentioned it, but he sees the maintenance guy falling off the ladder in slow motion.
Yeah.
And nobody else everybody else is in real time. And the meeting's going on like normal and he's watching that going down. And that's when I knew there's more going on here. Than just, I don't know why, but that tipped me off. There's a lot more going on here than just drugs.
More than just drugs.
Even though it could have been drugs, but that's when I was like, all right, this is getting interesting now.
Yeah, they could have just made this a trip movie, right? And how a comedy, out a comedy. I really appreciated how they had to administer the drug.
Yes.
I like that it took two people and you had to do the tongue thing. I like that.
Yeah, and he wasn't too interested until he found out that Teresa, he was like, no, I'm good. And then the guy says, you have to do it by touching tongues. And Teresa says, I'm in. And he ran away, jumps right in.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, I'm good.
Can someone explain to me, though, why she changed, why she was a different person? I don't get that.
I didn't get that either.
Okay, I don't get
Teresa,
it. That's what
Teresa?
I was saying.
Yeah.
I don't even understand the purpose of that.
Well, that's what I meant. you know how they talk about harmony in nature, everything. I think she's the representation of it. She made herself appear a certain way on that person who really didn't matter, but was someone she could kind of manipulate to get him to where he needed to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. But that's the only thing I can come up with.
I just feel like it was kind of weak, though. And it seemed unnecessary, I guess, you know?
Yeah,
but I guess
her, not her. Yeah.
I guess the reality is, though, her living in reality would make it sad for him dying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
yeah.
Him dying and being able to be with maybe Teresa is just his ideal image of what his ideal partner would be. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah, I was thinking it was something. You did a better job explaining it, Vanessa. But when he first sees her in the bar, there's something going on.
Mm-hmm.
She singled him out, and he singled her out, and he goes over there, and that's when he finds out his friend is there with supposedly her friend. So, to me, when you find out that's not really what Teresa looks like, that it made me think there was something much more intentional going on there, which is, I think, what you were talking about. Sort of,
it's hard. It's hard to like put a thumb on it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the script is pretty smart in the dialogue, like the little, you know, how we learn about Jeff's character because he calls them Nat and Terry, and they like, no, my name's Natalie, and this is Teresa. Yeah, there's these little things that really work, and like the exchange between him and Richie, I found really interesting. I found the Richie character really complex for dialogue wise, not his character, but he was rattling off some stuff that wouldn't be typical for the character. I like to he goes, man, you're gonna die, and poof, off he goes.
You're gonna die. Yeah, that was great. He didn't die, not that way, at least.
Not by Richie.
Not by Richie or the drugs. Maybe the drugs in the long run.
Yeah, maybe.
Really, the freaking drugs was awesome. I mean, that the whole thing was one of my favorite freaking sequences because I'm like, what is wrong with? Oh my god, how much did he just do?
Yeah.
And
he just like everything.
With Richie guy, he just grabs it.
I just couldn't with that whole scene. I was like, that is.
Well, he sees it. He sees the clock falling off the thing. So he knows, that's when he figured out, he knows something's going to change. So he's got to hurry up and do it as fast as he can.
Hey, you don't know which one to take.
Because he's going to exit quick, one way or the other.
And he sure does. That was one of my favorite scenes as far as his, because he didn't just disappear. He actually traveled at that time, that time. So in the chair, it goes back through the wall and stuff. So that was kind of fun. All right. Well, I think if we keep talking about it, we might as well recite the entire movie. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score, and favorite scene for The Wave. Crystal, start us off.
Okay. So like I said, I liked it. It's kind of trippy, but it makes sense for the most part, except for one thing, like I said, kind of had an issue with. I say, give it a watch. I'm giving it a 2.75. And my favorite scene, I guess, is, I'll just say that's a twist. You know what that is? That's a twist. Oh,
go ahead and say it. What is it? Say it.
Oh, it's right before he gets hit by the car. He says, that's a twist.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Literally,
when he sees the boss.
When he sees the driver,
yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah, I was like, oh God. I was not ready for that, but I was really happy.
That whole chain of events, that was awesome.
Yeah, and I liked how it, we saw it earlier, but then it actually played out on purpose here, right? So
yes.
I liked it. Yeah. All right, Jeff, you're up next. What's your final thoughts, score, favorite scene?
Yeah, I think this was a fun movie. I really enjoyed this. I liked the acting. All of the actors were known to me, a big chunk of them anyway, and I liked their past work, and I think the crew did a great job with the visuals and the writing and the directing. So I'm giving this a 4.
Nice.
And my favorite scene is the one I already talked about, is in the executive conference room for me, it really was the part where the maintenance guy has fallen off the ladder. when that went into slow motion and that clock is falling and Frank is watching it and he's got that eyes wide open, mouth wide open, scary look on his face, and everybody else is just going along talking like they're still having a meeting, and what happens after that. So I like that part.
I like the guy falling in slow motion, but after that, well, that's just me. That's just me. I'm on the wrong end of that stick. All right, Vanessa, your final thoughts, score, favorite scene, The Wave.
So when I first heard the name of this, I thought we were watching a Norwegian movie about a giant killer wave. Look it up. I'm serious. There's the same name. But no, I'm much happier that we watched this one. I really, really enjoyed it, especially watching. I did a double feature with The Color Out of Space and this one, and watching those together was really good. I think Justin Long gives such a great performance in this. I really, really enjoyed seeing him because sometimes he can kind of be a little grating to watch if he's not really your type of actor, your type of comedy. But I really enjoyed his performance in this. I like the psychedelic kind of trippy, don't understand everything that's going on aspects to movies like this. And I really, visually, that's what sells it for me. It's so visually stunning at times with the things they do. And some of the shots they did too were single camera shots through certain things that Justin Long is doing. And I thought those worked so well and really like amped up whatever anxiety or pressure was going on at that time. I would say definitely check this out. I'm going to match Jeff and give it a 4.
Nice.
But see, I was going to say the boardroom scene, too, was my favorite scene. But, like, when they start turning into demons and everything, and he's freaking out. Yeah, different part. So that really stood out to me as, like, my very favorite scene. But if I had to choose a backup, it's when the hobo shows up at the door with all the money.
Yes!
Yeah.
I loved that. Was so unexpected to me. I really had no idea what was going to happen, where it was going to go, and I just love that so much. Plus, later on, he says, "I gave him $1,000 or whatever. I gave him money out of the bag. 10,000 bucks, money out of the bag."
He seemed like a nice guy.
Yes, right. Yeah, he was always nice to him. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that the whole thing about his wallet and his money came circled back around as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that was a big part of the beginning. He was like, "Oh God, I got to find my wallet and find out what happened to my money." Mm-hmm. Now he knows. He did it.
It was him.
All right, for me, I really enjoyed this, and I do like Justin Long quite a bit, and I think he's paired with Donald Faison, and I thought they worked well together.
Mm-hmm.
I loved when Tommy Flanagan showed up. I liked his character and how mysterious he was, and he felt otherworldly, like the yin and yang to Teresa's character, right? The Teresa, not Teresa character, not the Teresa character, but the Teresa. What am I saying? I don't know.
Sheila Van.
Yes, Sheila Van. Because I think they were opposing each other in a weird sort of way, and Justin Long stuck in the middle. And I found, I don't know, I had a good time on the journey. I don't think it was entirely as smooth as I would like to have been, but I don't know if it was intended to be anyway. So I'm going to give it a 3.25.
Wow, I voted at the
I know. I thought you would be a little higher. Yeah. And my favorite scene is going to be real close to the one Vanessa did, but it's earlier. And that's when he figures it all out and he brings the clock back. And everybody's reaction, like, where'd that clock come from? They're all freaking out, right? And even, his friends and the Natalie character, and they have no idea what's going on. And there he is standing there with all these guns pointing at him. He's holding this clock that came out of nowhere. And suddenly he's got control of the situation, and the whole thing shifts. Yeah, even though Richie and his bodyguard don't know it. And then, of course, it follows up with the scene that Vanessa, and they don't give it to you right away. They, just a few more minutes, the door's going to be knocking, and your money's going to be here. What are you talking about? And then it doesn't happen right away. So it was good timing. Good timing. I really liked the script on this. I thought it was smart, and the dialogue was on point. So I think we're recommending The Wave.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
All right. It is coming out January 17th, 2020 from Epic Pictures. So check it out in theaters and VOD. Up next is The Color Out of Space.
Yeah.
This is from director Richard Stanley, we could have a whole podcast just talking about him. The writer is Scarlett O'Maris, and of course it's based on H.P. Lovecraft. The cast includes the great Nicolas Cage, Jolie Richardson, Koryanka Kilcher, Tommy Chong, Madeline Author, Julian Hillard, Elliot Knight, Brendan Mayer, and others. It's coming to theaters January 24th. So this is a little extra for us. This is a little special for the type of films we normally cover here, but it's one definitely worth it because it's been getting a lot of buzz. There's something I did there with being in the film festivals and whatnot. The synopsis is simple. A town is struck by a meteorite and the fallout is catastrophic. It's far more complex than that sentence. So let's find out. I am so glad Vanessa's here because I know that Vanessa loves H.P. Lovecraft. And this is Color Out of Space. So Vanessa, please tell us what your first impression of Color Out of Space is.
Wow, it's hard to... I kind of want to word vomit my first impression because there's so many things I could say that I just loved about this movie. The first thing I'll say is, outside of the very independent movie Dagon.
Yes, I love
right?
Dagon.
Great movie.
God, yes.
This is the best Lovecraft movie I've ever seen. It has the biggest budget. It has the best acting. It has the best interpretation, almost direct interpretation of one of his stories that has ever come out on film. I think this is one of Nicolas Cage's best performances. He's so nuanced with what he does. And I can't remember if you said this to me, Doc, when we were talking about it, but like a contained version of himself at times. And when he lets it go, it's just it's so smart the way the choices that he makes. And I'm going to say this movie is deeply seated in horror. And when we get into spoilers, you'll understand why. And if you've seen it, you'll really understand why. There are some amazing special effects in this movie, practical and CGI, and they work so beautifully together. And the main thing about this story is it's undescribable color. It's a color that no one's ever seen, that they can't really put their finger on. And I think they did such a great job at kind of capturing that and bringing the color to life as a living entity. Yeah, see, I'm just gonna keep going. I had very high hopes for this movie, but at the same time, I didn't want to disappoint myself, and this exceeded what I thought it could be.
Yes, and it has Tommy Chong.
And it has Tommy Chong.
And it has Tommy Chong. Yes. All right. Well, let's find out what the rest of the crew think. Jeff, you're up next. What is your first impression of Color Out of Space?
Holy crap. Holy crap. I love this movie. I'm with Vanessa on this, maybe even more, but she's right. I went back and read the story again, and this thing is so spot on. Of course, it takes some variations, but there are things in here that we can talk about later that are just impressive as hell. One of the things that really makes me happy is that Richard Stanley did this, and it's so good because he really got a bad deal a couple decades ago. So it's good to see that happen.
He deserves this.
I loved the mix of practical effects and CGI. They did great choices, and they was all excellent. And I think Madeline Arthur as Lavinia, I think she kind of steals the show.
Oh my God, so much so, yeah. I mean, even though Nicolas Cage owns it, yeah, she's quite special, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although Jack's pretty good too, the Julian Hillard, who was in The Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah.
Okay, that's who I thought it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, at least up until a point, right?
Cage and Stanley, and whether you like how Cage did it or not, I like what Vanessa said about how nuanced it was, that they actually sat down ahead of time and made choices on where are the scenes where Cage is going to go batshit, and it was all mapped out ahead of time. It wasn't just Cage going off. It was Cage and Stanley agreeing on where this was going to happen.
Where Cage can be Cage?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So you may not like the choices, but they were a choice. It wasn't just, him on the loose, I guess.
Yeah, because he's very reserved in the first act, and so there's moments like when he's at the dinner table and Lavinia gives him some shit, and it's a very reserved performance that's full of detail and sadness, and then later he just he's punching the roof of a car. So
I think the first 15 minutes there's a little bit of an intro there, but then it's like 15 minutes of sort of establishing the family unit of normal conflicts, normal teenager, but having fun and joking with each other and caring about each other and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because you have Nicolas Cage and Jolie Richardson as the parents, Nathan and Teresa, and you've got Madeline as Lavinia, the daughter. You got Julian as Jack, the youngest son, and then you got Brendan Mayer as Benny, the oldest son, and then you got a bunch of alpacas. All right, well, we still got one more voice to hear, and then we got to hear it. We need to hear it. Crystal, what was your first impression of Color Out of Space?
So I loved it too, obviously.
Yay.
I mean, yeah.
Yay.
At first I even thought, this is a slow burn, but it wasn't a slow burn at all. Like, it just had a little bit of time to get to know people, and then it got up into the goods. And it's a really kind of heart-wrenching story, honestly. I mean, and I knew that, but I don't know, to kind of see it, this stuff like almost like it's real life. What? No, but it was done so well. I like, what is it? Jolie, isn't she the mother? She was in Nip Tuck, if you remember that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And I love her too. But I have to agree, with Vanessa on this, I think Nicolas Cage, I think he was so good in this. Like, shockingly good. I was like, oh, wow, he was very natural, very fatherly at times, very crazy. They all go kind of a descent into madness, and they all have time displacement. So this would be our theme, right? Yeah. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. So I think it was done well. I loved the colors. I loved the cinematography. I love the story. I think it's an excellent representation of what, and this is to me, this is horrific because it's horrifying. It is horrifying. Like, people may start out and be like, oh, no. There's points you can't deny. It is straight up for sure, But yeah, so yeah, I loved it. I loved it too.
Lovecraft frequently describes things as unspeakable, unimaginable, that kind of stuff. So how do you depict that? Wow, they just nailed it. I mean, there was unspeakable, indescribable stuff in this movie that was just sorry.
No, there absolutely was.
No.
Yeah, I love this film as well. I wasn't sure what I was going to get, and because Nicolas Cage can be really great or sour as can be, but this is a great performance, and the rest of the cast is equally as great. And I do think, like you said, Jeff, I think we're going to see a lot of Madeline Arthur. I thought she was really, really good. So what really struck me, I mean, there's a lot of visuals in here that, some are beautiful, some are absolutely horrific. We'll get to the horrific things. We have to talk about it when we get to spoilers. But one of the things I thought was really subtle and interesting was, they mentioned this flower one time, because it's, the meteorite lands in Nicolas Cage's front yard, and then, the shit hits the fan, right? And then this flower appears, and it's really weird and different, and they just write it off as a perennial, right? And then as the story goes on, you start seeing more and more of them, right? They're just, here's some, there's 5 or 6 of them sprung up over here. There's a couple on the tree, but they never mention it again. It's all told visually. and to the point when, you have maybe one little path of grass to go between all of them because there's so many. And I loved how they didn't have to give us all this exposition to tell the story. They let the story be told visually a lot of times. They gave us a little bit of a hint, right? Mention it one time just so we'll notice. And then off we go. I mean, even when it gets to the point of stuff that's reminiscent of like The Thing, John Carpenter, The Thing. I mean, there's some crazy Thing inspired stuff in here. And yeah, it really blew me over in its storytelling and craft and the visualization. Richard Stanley, I think, nailed this. And he needs to be a little bit more prolific. Let's don't wait 20, 30 years for another film, please. Let's do another one now. Get to work, because you have incredible talent and the rich colors and everything, with or without the special colors. Even before and after that, it's amazing. Well,
and the Spectrovision guys are the perfect ones to take him on and help with that, I think.
Yes. I think this outfit is, it's a perfect match to kind of, grab his true talent and his true nature that we see in his early films before it went south for him. And this is a film I think should be discussed for years. Yeah, it's good stuff.
And I heard that there would be a lot of comparison between this and Mandy. They're both coming from Spectrovision. They both have Nicolas Cage. They're both kind of these extremes. But I told someone the other day, I said, this is a movie. Mandy is its own thing. You almost cannot categorize it with other movies because it's its own thing. But this is a movie. It plays out like, your normal movie would play out. And it excels in that way, which sets it apart. Like, I can see the similarities between Mandy and this stylistically, but I love that they were able to make this its own thing, make this stand out instead of kind of getting swept under the rug of Mandy.
Absolutely. And it has Tommy Chong!
Yes. Did you notice, Vanessa, that the beginning, or anybody that have read that, the beginning and the ending voiceovers are quoted out of the story?
Yes, and I love that.
Didn't catch
I
that.
love that.
Nice.
Well, and then the reel-to-reel that we hear with Ezra on it, that stuff is right out of the story too.
Yes.
Oh, is it? Is
it's
it?
a totally different character says it, but those phrases are right out of the story.
Yeah, and I love the way they manipulated his voice too, up and down and deep. But another kind of little poke at Lovecraft, because we all know he was a giant bigot and a giant racist, is that they give some of these very important roles in this movie to women and to people of color. And I just thought that was such a smart way to adapt his work into being something modern.
Nice.
Isn't that so sad about him? It's so sad that that's the only thing about him where I go, ugh.
There was a lot of people back then.
Yeah.
For those who haven't seen Color Out of Space, it's coming out January 24th, so you may not have seen it yet as you're listening to this. We're going to get into spoilers, so don't be spoiled by our talk. So go see this and come back and hear our scores. I can tell you right now they're going to be very, very strong. So let's get into it at the count that's going to follow. 3, 2, 1. I'm just going to say it. Alpacas. When the alpacas, it's not the most shocking moment, but when they discover what's happened to the alpacas, I got vibes of John Carpenter's The Thing.
Absolutely. Yep.
Nobody eats alpaca meat, Dad.
Yeah, nobody eats. I know, he was so upset about that. And the whole milking scene was weird too.
Man, that was weird. Yeah, no, Crystal. Yeah, totally awesome.
And I felt that was a lot of practical stuff too, and we get to see it more than once, right? So,
I miss that. I miss seeing more of those kind of practical effects because they get under your skin more than if that were just like a CGI homunculus of alpaca, seeing it dripping and what paired with the screaming and it I loved
and
it.
The eyes,
the close up of the eyes, yeah.
It just has such a different feel. CGI can't recreate it.
Well, I think the one that really gets to you is the mother and the son. That's the one.
Well, let's talk about that. Yeah, because that whole scene where they're holding each other and then they get hit by the color out of space, and we don't see the result right away. Oh my God! But when we do, that's where the horror is full on. I mean, there's already elements of horror, but at this point, it's horrific and gruesome and incredibly sad because these two characters are screaming and yelling and oh yes. Would you want to say something about it, Vanessa? Tell us what you thought. Yeah.
Oh, it really turned my stomach because it's so incredibly heartbreaking. The minute you see them get hit by that light, after having seen the alpacas, something terrible is going to happen. And then when you don't see them and you kind of hear the gurgling that they're making and the soft cries until they take them inside and we get the reveal when Madeline Arthur sees them, she comes around and we see them on the couch too, and it's so terrifying to imagine that. Are they conscious? Do they know this is happening? And she's talking about how she's trying to resorb him. Oh my God. And that was so much like the thing when they took them upstairs into the attic and they're still transforming.
Well, she becomes a spider, and it reminds me. Yeah, it's totally
with the head, the human head.
Yes, it's so good. Sorry, I got really excited.
No,
about
it's
that.
just it was awesome and it's creepy and scary and hurts you on an emotional level. Like the horror on this, it has so many stages because there's the emotional horror of what's going on. There's the mental horror of what's going on. There's the visual horror of what's going on, and it's like that in the story, and it's almost impossible to even explain it to someone when you try to tell them about this story. And it's just remarkable that they were able to translate that.
And of course it's the young kid Jack who is in it, just makes it even more sad, right?
I know.
Yeah, the whimpering and the sort of, they were trying to talk to them, and there was just these weird rasps or attempts at it. God, it was just, you're right. It was just,
or when they were drinking the water.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, she was lapping it up like a dog. I was like, oh my God. That's even just so sad.
But it was practical, right? For most part. I mean, it felt like there was some CGI added on, but it felt like a costume. Like if you gave it weight and urgency.
Up until I think you mentioned the when it actually goes for Lavinia, there was some CGI there, wasn't there?
With the movement, I think maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
And I think they did some CGI to the mother's face when she screams, but there's definitely some of her there. But it's so good.
It was damn grisly even without that. God.
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't shy away from close-ups.
And I think that's what's so compelling and good about this story is that it's really sad. And it's about the family and, we stick together. And it's so jacked up because you think, they're making the stupidest decisions, but they also don't want to leave each other, I think, is part of what is kind of keeping them together, And
they're being affected too, right? So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Benny's in the well.
Well, well, that's another difference in that this takes place in 6 or 7 days, and the story is over a year. The stuff happens over a year, but everything that happens in this is in the story. The crops are gigantic and they taste terrible, and that everything turns to dust at the end. And there's this, they call it the blasted heath, that area that's all gray. It's just, God, I just was so loved how much they followed the story. That totally sucked me in.
I liked when the bug came out of the I guess it was came out, but it had transformed eyes, and I was so wanted somebody to have those transformed eyes, but I was denied. Not even Ezra.
We're gonna get that with Madeline at the end when she's standing by the well.
Yeah, or Ezra, right? Ezra, when they turn him around. But
he was such a good character in this. He was the needed character to kind of add that outside perspective from the inside.
Yep.
And it's Tommy Chong.
And he was a squatter, right? And it's Tommy Chong.
Their squatter, yeah.
And they lived with him being on the land, so I thought that was interesting. That dynamic.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, he's here. Like, well, I mean, they've got plenty of space. I mean,
oh, you mean our squatter?
Yeah.
Does anybody else live here?
Yeah. It seemed like Benny made the most of it. Yeah.
Yes, it did. Well, that's at the beginning. It's those are also kind of feel like throwaway lines where Lavinia makes a comment about he's off, smoking pot with something with good stuff he got from Ezra or something, and then she's like, "Oh, you're letting him hang around with that reprobate, blah blah blah," and then we're like going, and then when she goes to see him, he comes out of the horse barn by himself. So we're going, well, who's this other guy they're talking about? Oh, well, we find out.
Yes. Brilliant casting.
Well, and I was like, wait, it's because it's been forever for me since I was like, is that one of his peers? Not of his age group. It's so funny to me. It's so ridiculous. It's like this grown ass man. It is so Tommy Chong. Yep.
One of the visuals I really loved was, and this was practical with CGI enhanced, was toward the end with Lavinia, because she scars herself to protect herself, right? She's using her Wiccan or skills or whatever. What did they give it another name?
That was a nice addition.
I thought. And the marking on her forehead, which became kind of like the third eye, which correct me if I'm wrong, Lovecraft uses a lot in his work, right? Or what the pineal gland and all that kind of stuff?
Pineal.
Oh, okay.
Well, that. Well, yeah,
okay.
They did mention it. Yeah, they did. I think it was just in the one though. But
okay.
Yeah, I see the tie in there. Actually, I didn't think about it until you just said that right now, that's a tie into like the pineal gland.
Yeah, me neither.
Way to go, Doc.
Well, did you notice that the first and last scenes that we see Lavinia in, she's in the exact same pose?
Oh.
I didn't notice that.
She's on the beach with her arms raised doing that incantation or ritual. And then at the end, she's doing the same thing to the color as she disappears.
All right. Well, I think we've given this a lot of attention and spoiled a lot of it. So for those who are back and want to hear our scores and stuff, let's do that now. This is our final thoughts, our score and favorite scene for Color Out of Space. Vanessa, start us off.
Love this movie. I love that Nicolas Cage made a joke about his hair. I thought that was so smart.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so awesome to do that. But
you were thinking it too, right?
Great. Yeah, I was looking at his hair. I was like, God, his hair looks wild. And then he makes a statement about it. I was like, "That's
nobody give me a comb. Come on."
Nobody can tell me to brush my hair. As that's the least crazy thing he's doing in that interview. This is just gorgeous. This is going to appeal to so many different fans of sci-fi, of fantasy, of horror, of Lovecraft, of cosmic horror. It's just running the gamut. Beautifully, beautifully shot and put together. Just the right amount of caginess here and there. Such a beautiful performance from everybody in it, really. Even Jolie Richardson, I thought, was so great in this. But it's hard not to look at Nicolas Cage and pay attention to him because of his history. And I just loved this performance that he gave. I can't say enough about it. I honestly have no freaking clue what to make my favorite scene because they're all phenomenal and they're all beautiful and there's so many different moments. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll give my score first. I'm going to give this a 5. For coming from the source material, for the way that it looks, for the direction, for the acting, I think this is phenomenal. I don't know.
What's it gonna be?
I know.
What's it gonna be?
I know. Okay. There's so many. Okay. You kind of hit on one of them that was one of my favorite scenes, so I'll pick this. But it's when we go into that third eye and the origin of this color is being revealed, where it came from. You see these little guys like worshiping this thing. or on this foreign planet. I thought that was
That's cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
It was so cool. It gave it a sense of grounding in the cosmos. It's bigger than anything you know. It's older than anything you know. It can come and go as it pleases. And the way that it changed Ward, when we see him after that, after it leaves, and he's reciting those words at the end, and he's just so haggard looking, and he's so just, he says it in the lines there, when you've seen something that your mind cannot understand, and you can tell that has changed him. There is that cosmic horror in him now. I love that. From that moment where they see the planet all the way through to the explosion and what they do with the color there to that final scene. Perfect.
I like that. All right, Jeff, sir, what is your final thoughts? Your score, favorite scene for Color Out of Space?
I feel bad because we're starting to gear off with a double shot here, but I'm giving this a 5 too.
Yes.
I literally loved everything about it. I love how true to the story they were. I love the changes they made in the story. I thought they were very effective. I love the fact that this is Richard Stanley's, I don't know if I want to call it a comeback, but yeah, comeback, and it is so awesome. The acting, the special effects, the practical effects, So anyway, watch this when it comes out, and I'm going to do my damnedest to find this at a theater. I think, what is it, January 24th? That's the release date. And I'm just for fun, my favorite scene I'm going to pick, there's a cat, pussycat, if you will, named G-Spot.
Yes. I love it. Great.
And when Nathan and Teresa, Nicolas Cage and Jolie Richardson, are driving back from when we didn't even mention this.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Dinner's ready.
Yeah.
And they see that cat after it's been morphed, I guess, by the color. That was just freaky as hell.
Yeah, Ezra says you might find it, but you won't recognize it.
Yes, he says that to Ward. And I liked that character a lot. I thought he was a good anchor.
All right, Crystal, it's your turn. What's your final thoughts? Your score, favorite scene for Color Out of Space?
What? See, Colorado. What? Colorado? Yeah.
Colorado Space. I think that's a John Denver
I was like,
song.
blah, blah, blah. And it,
Colorado Space.
It just like rolls like that, right? It's like, so, but obviously I loved it too. There's a lot of good here. Honestly, I'm definitely going to watch it again. It's something I think a lot of horror movie lovers will really enjoy. It's a little bit trippy, not too much. Pretty much makes sense and in all the right ways. I'm giving it a 4.25, which is really good. I can't, yeah. And I'm sorry, but I just have to go with this because it's one of my favorites. We kind of talked about it, but the UFO witness. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, have you drank? And he's like, well, I like a bit of bourbon. The whole
interview.
Yes, it was just, I just can't tell you how much I laughed. I rewound it and watched it again because it was so funny to me. He's like, oh God.
He's so mortified. It's hilarious.
He's such a dad at that moment.
Yeah, it's so cute.
But I think the other thing that makes that so great is it was coupled with the mother preparing dinner too.
Oh yeah,
and so when the one kid goes into the kitchen, Jack goes in to get her. You still hear in the background they're mocking him. Who said UFO? I didn't say UFO.
I like a little bit of bourbon. She's like, were you drinking? I like a little bit of bourbon, but I mean, I wasn't.
That was great. That's great.
Yeah. This was the right amount of Cage all the way around. It was perfect. I too love this film. It really struck a chord with me. I found it a really terrific blend of sci-fi and horror. It's the more horrific side of that blend, the thing, kind of blend, and it has quite a few parallels with that kind of film, Carpenter's The Thing. I really appreciated Nicolas Cage's performance. It was really reserved at first, like that scene you're talking about. He's air quotes cagey, but he's not, wacky Cage, right? He's not the bee. He's not the bee. He's not there yet. He goes there, but when he does, it's backed by this experience and how he's changing. He's channeling. I think somebody told me he was channeling his father in some of his dialogue. Like when he comes back and he gets mad at the daughter and gives her some shit, and he's going off, and it's really a fascinating performance. And I'm giving it a 4.75. This is going to be this is going to be a tough one to get this year, to knock off. It's spectacular, and it is I would say it is a great pairing with Mandy. It's different, that's for certain, but there is a flavor here that this company brings, much like how A24 brings a certain flavor to the films they pick and release. So does this company here. My favorite scene is going to be, I'm going to choose a Cage scene too. Now, there are plenty of scenes that can be the horrific ones, from the spider lady thing to, there's all kinds of gross things or spectacular things. But the one scene that really got to me, and it was an emotional way, was when the police officer and Ward show up at the Gardeners, and really the only person walking around the house at this point is Nathan, Nicolas Cage's character. And he thinks everybody's in the living room. In his mind, nothing's happened, and they're all in the living room. And, when they ask about it, he goes, "Don't you see them? They're all right here." And of course they aren't, but in his head they are. Yeah. Right.
So weird.
We're a family.
We're a family, but it,
except for Benny, he lives in the well now.
Except for right. Yes. So I thought that was so interesting for his character, that and the dialogue told everything, right? So it wasn't exposition, and there wasn't a whole lot of that. I mean, Tommy Chong's Ezra gives us a little bit, and so does Ward, right, in a different perspective. But in most cases, it's all visual and stuff. But if you're going for a special effect, I would choose the bug with all the eyes. It was a praying mantis, right? A transformed praying mantis with very colorful wings. Really interesting. Loved it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the special effect one I would have picked was when Ward was fighting to get away from Lavinia. And he was like dimensionally blurring or something.
I did see that.
Against him. I thought that was just cooler than hell. I was hoping to see more of it.
Yeah, like part of him was kind of falling off of him. Yeah, like falling behind. Yeah.
We have to talk about that. I can't believe I forgot to mention it, but Nicolas Cage using his father's voice. That to me was such gifted acting, because in the very beginning where he's outside talking to his wife and he puts on his father's voice, 2 sentences, maybe. Enough to help you realize later on what he's doing when he's switching into that crazy mode, and he has that kind of, no offense to anybody, Donald Trump kind of voice.
Yes.
I just thought, that's part of that nuanced acting that he's doing, and it's in and out so subtly. There's no big changes. There's no signals. It just happens. And it's just such a credit to him as an actor and to the director, and, allowing him to explore that and using that, I thought was so great.
Absolutely. He even has a line, I'm not like my father, right?
Yes. He wants so bad not to be his dad.
Yep.
One more thing. The freaking scaly skin that they did on him looks so good. You know how hard that is? And it looks, I was like, damn, they did a really good job. Whoever did the practical effects, they're amazing. Really. Like, I was like, that's so good looking.
It so subtly shows how this creature can manipulate the atoms in this world that it's in. Like, wherever it came from, it had this complete manipulation of matter. And now that it's on Earth, it can take all these things from Earth and kind of do with it whatever it wants. But it's such a subtle change in him. You know, he's just, oh, it's a rash.
That's so insane.
Nice. Well, the film Color Out of Space arrives in theaters January 24th, 2020, so look out for it. And what's the company again, Jeff, that's putting it out?
Spectrovision, isn't that with Daniel Radcliffe?
No, Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood. I always
that's his twin. His twin.
The American version.
The U.S. thing. Oh, that's funny. Oh, now we got to put them in a movie together. That's yeah. All right. So that was our reviews this week. Color Out of Space and The Wave. Oh my goodness. It's a better theme for episode 100. I think we could not have had. This was an amazing night.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh yeah. 100.
If you want to give us some feedback, do so at feedback@gruesomemagazine.com. You can head over to Facebook and join our group, or you can go to gruesomemagazine.com and leave some comments on the show notes on the site. Oh, man. Vanessa, I'm so glad you made it for 100. This is fun. I hope you come back throughout 2020.
Yes, definitely. I would be more than happy to. And like I told you all earlier through email, it's just so happy that I could be a part of the 100th episode, because my number one pinned post on my Facebook, on my Scarlet Spitfire Facebook page, is episode 1 of Gruesome Magazine. And it's just it's a great thing. I love what it's become.
Wow, that was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I love with all you guys, and I miss Dave tonight. I would have loved to hear what Dave said.
Yes, we'll find out. All right, Jeff, Vanessa, and Crystal, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
I was like, wait,
Crystal
everyone
speaks for us all.
All right, well, let's go ahead.
Tommy Chong is my spirit animal. I'm just saying.
Oh yes, absolutely. All right,
mine would be G-Spot. No,
I was going to say that. I was going to say and Tommy Chong's G-Spot, but I like it when you say it better. All right, all right. With that, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.